Hello, welcome to Nonprofits for the Future, the roadmap to new funding sources. I'm Drew Heckman and you're in Module 3. You should have already completed the financial projections section. This section will be a demo on the Pro Forma Financials workbook. So if you have it open, you'll notice that there are two tabs on the bottom, the income statement as well as assumptions. I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how these tabs work in tandem and how the income statement is put together. This has the potential to really get into the weeds, so I would recommend taking a look at each of the cells to get an idea of where it's all coming from. But you can start to recognize patterns on how this is all put together. Let's start with the income statement. You'll notice that on the income statement, we have our revenue, our costs, our operating expenses, and our net profit. When we take a look at our net profit for each month, we can click in the formula bar here to see how it's all put together. We see that our gross revenue minus our costs minus our expenses equals our net profit, just like the formula we discussed in the other section. A quick accounting note, anything that's in parentheses is a negative number. Anything not in parentheses is a positive. So because our operating expenses and our costs are higher in the first 4 months than our revenues, we have negative numbers. As we go on into May, June, July, and August, we start to turn a profit. This was a forecast from 2017 for widget A and widget B, completely arbitrary and made up. But that's why you do see 27 forecast, 2018 forecast, 2019, and 2020. When you click into each of the sections, you can see that it comes from the Assumptions tab for each of these. If we click into the gross revenue, we'll see that the Assumptions tab is referencing Assumptions tab B55. So let's take a quick look in there. Assumptions tab B55. You'll see that it's coming right here from our total revenue for each month. And if you went back and forth, you'd notice 3850 all the way to 28606 are the same exact numbers. 3850, 28606. So this income statement is a overall high-level snapshot of the Assumptions tab. Again, remember the Assumptions tab is really where we get into the nitty-gritty of the details of our revenue, our costs, and our operating expenses. This is the high level. So if you want to see how I decided that we had $2,000 in legal costs, you would go into the Assumptions tab. So let's do that, but looking at our revenue. To just give you an overall idea of how this is all put together, looks a little overwhelming. Anything in green is hard-coded. That means that I went in and I typed in 5 manually. Anything that's yellow has a formula in it. You see the multiplication and the cell reference? I'm referencing the previous cell and saying, I want to increase this by 20%. You'll also notice that anything that is summed is in yellow. These two things are added together, and so it's yellow because it's a formula. Overall, the revenue page or section is outlined like this. We have the number of units we expect to sell for widget A and widget B on each of their product lines, a 60 count, 300 count, 600 count, 1200 count. For type B, a 50 count, 300 count, 500 count, and 1000 count. We also have the price that's associated with each of those. Notice that I'm selling the 60 count for $10. I'm selling the 300 count for $40, and so on. In order to get my total revenue, I am multiplying the number I expect to sell times the price I want to sell it at. 5 60 counts of widget A at $10 a piece is $50. If I want to click in there, again, I can always click in the formula bar here and see with the color code which things are multiplying together. See the blue here for B8? See the red here for B24? Multiplying those two things together, I get my expected revenue for widget A. When you expand those formulas across all of the cells, you can add up the two together. Widget A plus widget B equals my total revenue. And that's where I get this number from, and that's where it's referenced in the income tab. Moving down to costs now, Oh, quick note actually, you'll notice these little red flags in here. That's because I made a comment. I wanted to be specific about how I came up with this 5. So basically, I said we expect to sell 5 widget A's of 60 counts per month to start out based on market research. And you'd put in some reference there for why you expect to sell 5. Going forward, based on market infiltration and growth, as well as Facebook ad campaigns, we expect to sell 20% more each month for the first year. So notice that this is 1.2 times the previous month. Same thing with March, 1.2 times February, April, 1.2 times March, all the way through to December, which is 1.2 times November. So each month we sell 20% more. Let's zoom back out and go down to our costs. Costs is similarly set up. We have the static shipping costs per product line. So I said that it was going to cost $14 across the board. Whether it's widget A, widget B, a 300 count or a 1,000 count, costs us $14. For this particular set of widgets, that is a true statement. However, you'll have to see in most circumstances, of course, if you're shipping 1,000 of something, it's going to cost you more. This is where you put it in manually. Notice these are all green. It cost me $13.95 to ship out each of these. And I also wrote these hard-coded for each year. I might want to anticipate that my shipping costs go up 10% each year, in which case I would go in here and multiply this by 1.1. Okay, so going down to total shipping costs, it is going to cost me $14 times every single one that I sell. Look that I'm referencing this one way up here. So I expect to sell 5 of them. Well, if I'm going to make money from 5 of them, I also have to spend money on 5 of them. That's why I reference the same cell. So the total cost for this one will adjust based on the number that I type into here. It will also extend across each month here and each month down here. Notice that since I'm selling more, I'm also spending more on shipping costs. I can extend those across both widget A and widget B, and I get my total shipping costs. It also projects out year to year, $75,000 in shipping costs. Operating expenses is marketing, legal, other operating expenses, like maybe this is office supplies, a headcount summary, salaries, salary costs, and hardware and software costs per full-time employee. So I'm not going to go into all of these in detail, but you will notice that I hard-coded these because I decided that we're going to spend $50 a month on Instagram marketing, $50 a month on LinkedIn, Facebook, snail mail, etc. I did say that we're going to have a one-time video campaign in January to kick off things, not spend any more on video campaigns, and then each year we'll have a one-time cost of $750, $1,100, and $1,700. And I just decided that we would spend 50% more each month on our video campaign budget. I can always put in little comments by right-clicking and adding a comment to say why I'm spending $50 a month on Google Ads and why I made that assumption. So again, each of these are hard-coded, $1,000 in legal costs. I add them up and I sum them so they are yellow. Going down the line, same thing. You'll notice that my total salary costs is a function of my marketing manager, my director, and my intern. And each of these salary costs are determined by how many of them we have times their monthly salary. One marketing manager times $1,500 a month, and that's how we get $1,500 as a total. You'll see that in 2020, for example, we have 2 marketing managers, 1 director, and 4 interns multiplied by each of their monthly salaries gives us our total salary for 2020. Finally, hardware costs and software costs. It's going to cost $200 per computer per person, $10 in software costs per month per person. So you'll notice that we add these 2 things together and then multiply by the number of people that we have. 3 of them times $210 equals $630. Yellow because it's a formula. If we want to change how much that computer costs, put in 100 instead, and you'll see that it's only $330. So each of these can change. Only put in hard-coded numbers, in other words, things that you type in manually, into green cells, because the yellows are going to update automatically. So a word of caution. So that's it. That's how everything goes together. You'll notice that each of these references the sums on the other page. So legal, marketing, subscription, other expenses, and salaries all reference these totals down here. Salary costs, software costs, operating costs, legal costs, marketing costs. All flows back up into here. Sum them together, and you get your total expenses. Net profit is revenue minus costs minus expenses. And that's it. This has been Drew Hackman with Nonprofits for the Future. And please join us in the Facebook group and the office hours if you have any questions about this demo. See you soon.